There is a reason why Aries are admired and feared. But in 2026, something beneath their fire is becoming impossible to ignore. You see the courage, you see the confidence, you see the explosive energy that walks into a room and changes the temperature instantly. But what you don't see are the shadows that fuel that fire. The 8 dark secrets of Aries are not about cruelty. They are not about evil. They are about intensity, the kind that most people cannot handle. Why does an Aries walk away without looking back? Why do they explode in seconds, yet forgive just as fast? Why do they love with a force that feels intoxicating but shut down the moment they sense weakness? Why does betrayal change them forever? In 2026, these shadows are amplified, not because Aries are becoming darker, but because they are becoming more aware. This year pushes Aries into situations where their impatience, their temper, their fierce independence, and their brutal honesty are no longer optional traits. They become survival tools. Most people misunderstand Aries. They call them impulsive. They call them aggressive. They call them too much. But what if that too much is actually armor? What if the anger is protection? What if the bluntness is defense? What if the independence is born from never wanting to depend on anyone again? By the end of this video, you will understand something about Aries that even they struggle to admit. These are not surface traits. These are internal battles. And the final secret is the one that explains why Aries would rather burn everything down than beg for understanding. If you are an Aries, this might feel uncomfortable. If you love an Aries, this might finally make sense. Stay with me, because once you see the fire clearly, you will never look at Aries the same way again. Secret number 1. The impulse that hides a fear of powerlessness. An Aries doesn't wait. They don't sit still when something feels wrong. They don't rehearse speeches for days. They don't calculate emotional risks the way others do. They move. I once worked with an Aries client who quit a stable job within 10 minutes of being publicly criticized. No warning, no backup plan, just a quiet, controlled sentence. "I don't stay where I'm disrespected." And they walked out. From the outside, it looked reckless, impulsive, unstable. But when we spoke weeks later, something deeper surfaced. It wasn't the criticism they said, it was the feeling of losing control. This is the first dark secret of Aries in 2026. Their impulsiveness is not chaos, it is self-protection. Aries acts quickly, not because they lack thought, but because waiting feels like surrender. And surrender feels like weakness. In 2026, Aries will face multiple moments where hesitation could mean compromise in career, in love, in personal boundaries. Their instinct will be to act immediately, to decide fast, to cut clean, to burn bridges before someone else does. Most people interpret this as emotional immaturity, but psychologically, it is something else entirely. Aries is ruled by action energy. Their nervous system is wired for movement. When tension builds, they discharge it through action. They would rather make a mistake than remain stuck in uncertainty, because uncertainty feels like being trapped. And Aries cannot breathe when they feel trapped. The darker layer beneath this trait is rarely discussed. Aries fears powerlessness more than failure. Failure can be corrected. Embarrassment can be survived. But feeling controlled, dismissed, or silenced, that hits their core identity. So they act fast, sometimes too fast. In 2026, this tendency will intensify. Situations will arise where Aries must decide, respond instantly, or endure discomfort. And here is where the shadow appears. When Aries acts before reflecting, they may protect their pride but risk losing something meaningful. Relationships, opportunities, long-term stability, not because they don't care, but because their dignity feels non-negotiable. As someone who has studied Aries energy for decades, I've seen this pattern repeat. The strongest Aries are not the ones who act the fastest. They are the ones who learn to pause without feeling weak. That is the growth edge of 2026. Impulse can be power, but power without awareness becomes self-sabotage. Life lesson. Speed is not strength. True strength is knowing when you don't need to prove anything immediately. If you are an Aries, ask yourself, honestly, how many times did you act quickly just to avoid feeling small? Comment if this resonates with you, because this is only the surface. Impulse is visible. But what happens when Aries feels betrayed? That's when the fire truly changes. And that leads us to the second dark secret. Secret number 2. When betrayal turns the fire into ice. There is something people misunderstand about Aries. They are loud when angry. They are explosive when frustrated. They argue. They confront. They say exactly what they feel. But that is not the most dangerous version of Aries. The most dangerous version is the silent one. I once observed an Aries woman who discovered her partner had lied to her. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even argue. She simply looked at him calmly and said, "Now I know who you are." Within days, she emotionally detached. Within weeks, she was gone. No revenge, no dramatic exit, just permanent closure. Here is the second dark secret of Aries in 2026. When betrayal crosses a certain line, Aries does not explode. They freeze. People expect fire. They don't expect ice. Aries can forgive small mistakes quickly. Their anger flares fast and burns out just as fast. But betrayal is different. Betrayal attacks something sacred to Aries' loyalty. Aries does not give trust easily. When they do, it is wholehearted, raw, unfiltered. They invest with intensity. So when that trust is broken, it doesn't just hurt. It redefines the relationship permanently. Psychologically, Aries experiences betrayal as a threat to identity. They pride themselves on reading people accurately. So when they are deceived, it feels like a personal failure. And Aries hates feeling foolish more than anything. In 2026, many Aries will confront situations where someone they believed in disappoints them, a partner, a friend, a colleague. And the internal battle will not be about anger. It will be about dignity. Do they fight for the relationship, or do they protect their pride and walk away? Here is the shadow. Aries would rather lose someone than beg to be valued, even if it hurts them, especially if it hurts them, because begging feels like surrender. And as we said before, surrender feels like weakness. From years of observing Aries, I've learned this. Their departure is rarely impulsive when betrayal is involved. It may look sudden, but internally, Aries has already replayed every detail, every word, every shift in energy. Once they decide the trust is broken beyond repair, they shut the door emotionally. And reopening that door is nearly impossible. Life lesson. Intensity is powerful, but loyalty without boundaries becomes vulnerability. In 2026, Aries must learn the difference between protecting their dignity and protecting their ego. Walking away can be strength, but sometimes staying and communicating is braver. If you are an Aries, think carefully. Have you ever left before the other person even realized you were hurt? Comment if this resonates with you, because betrayal is only one trigger. The next secret is even deeper. It explains why Aries sometimes destroys opportunities simply because they cannot tolerate being controlled. And that is where their independence becomes both their power and their greatest obstacle. Let's go there. Secret number 3. Their obsession with freedom can sabotage love. There is one thing Aries will never tolerate for long: control, not subtle control. Not emotional pressure, not expectations disguised as care. Control in any form feels suffocating. I remember an Aries man who ended a relationship not because he didn't love his partner, but because he felt monitored. She wasn't abusive, she wasn't toxic. She simply needed reassurance. But to him, her constant questions, "Where are you? Why didn't you answer?" felt like invisible chains tightening around his chest. And Aries cannot breathe in chains. Here is the third dark secret of Aries in 2026. Their need for independence is so strong that they sometimes destroy what they actually want just to prove they are still free. Freedom is not just a preference for Aries, it is identity. From a psychological perspective, Aries associates autonomy with survival. If they feel restricted, their nervous system activates as if they are under attack. And when Aries feels attacked even emotionally, they react. They pull away. They distance themselves. They reclaim space aggressively if necessary. In 2026, Aries will encounter situations where compromise is required. Relationships will demand patience. Careers will demand collaboration. Partnerships will require negotiation. And this is where the shadow emerges. Aries often confuses compromise with surrender. They believe that bending means breaking, but that belief can isolate them. The irony is painful. Aries deeply desires passion, connection, loyalty, but they refuse to sacrifice even a fragment of personal autonomy to sustain it. They want love, but they want it on their terms. As someone who has studied Aries energy for decades, I've seen this pattern repeatedly. The strongest Aries are not the most independent. They are the ones who understand that true freedom is internal, not reactive. Walking away to protect space can be powerful, but sometimes staying without feeling threatened is even stronger. Here is the deeper layer. Aries does not fear commitment. They fear losing themselves. That distinction changes everything. Life lesson. Freedom is not proven by how fast you leave. It is proven by how secure you feel while staying. In 2026, Aries must ask themselves a hard question. Are you protecting your independence? Or are you protecting your ego? Comment if this resonates with you. Because independence is only part of the fire, the next secret reveals something far more volatile. It explains why Aries can go from calm to explosive in seconds, and why their anger is rarely about what it seems. Now we enter the heart of the flame. Secret number 4. Their anger is a shield, not a weapon. People think Aries has a temper problem. They say Aries overreacts. They say Aries is dramatic. They say Aries needs to calm down. But here is what most people fail to understand. Aries does not get angry because they are unstable. They get angry because something feels unfair. I once observed an Aries employee who exploded in a meeting after being blamed for a mistake that wasn't theirs. The room went silent. The tone was sharp. The reaction was intense. Later, when we spoke privately, they said something revealing. I don't mind being wrong. I mind being disrespected. That distinction matters. Here is the 4th dark secret of Aries in 2026. Their anger is rarely about the surface issue. It is about dignity. Psychologically, Aries is wired to defend territory, not physical territory, but personal integrity. When they sense injustice, dishonesty, or humiliation, their nervous system reacts instantly. They don't process first, they protect first. And protection often sounds like anger. In 2026, Aries will encounter moments where they feel overlooked, undervalued, or challenged publicly. Their instinct will be to respond immediately, loudly if necessary. But here is the shadow. Sometimes their anger is not about injustice. Sometimes it is about vulnerability. Aries would rather express rage than admit they are hurt, because hurt feels exposed, and exposed feels dangerous. From years of observing Aries behavior, I've learned this: beneath every explosive reaction there is usually a wounded pride or a fear of losing control. They are not trying to intimidate. They are trying to stabilize themselves. And here's the paradox. Aries' anger is fast, but so is their forgiveness. They rarely hold grudges the way others expect. The flame rises high and then disappears just as quickly, yet the damage of that flame can linger. In 2026, Aries must learn something crucial. Intensity is not weakness, but unchecked intensity can destroy the very respect they are trying to protect. Life lesson. Power is not measured by how loudly you defend yourself. It is measured by how calmly you can stand in your truth. If you are an Aries, ask yourself honestly, how many times were you angry when you were actually hurt? Comment if this resonates with you, because anger is only one layer of the fire. The next secret reveals something even more complex. It explains why Aries can appear fearless to the world while hiding a surprisingly delicate heart beneath that armor. And that is where things become truly complicated. Let's go deeper. Secret number 5. The heart they pretend is unbreakable. Aries does not like appearing vulnerable. They prefer strength. They prefer confidence. They prefer the image of someone who can handle anything. But here is the truth very few people understand. Aries feels everything, deeply. I once spoke with an Aries woman who laughed off a breakup publicly. She posted confident photos. She told friends she was fine. She even joked about moving on. But weeks later, when no one was around, she admitted something quietly. I don't cry in front of people. I process alone. This is the fifth dark secret of Aries in 2026. Their strength is real, but so is their sensitivity. Aries has a surprisingly delicate emotional core. When they care about someone, they care with intensity. There is no half love, no partial investment. When they commit emotionally, they leap. And when that leap doesn't land safely, the fall is harder than they let anyone see. Psychologically, Aries avoids displaying vulnerability because it threatens their identity. They associate softness with exposure, and exposure feels unsafe. So they armor up. They move on quickly, they act unaffected, they rebuild fast. But internally, the emotional processing runs deep. In 2026, Aries may face situations where they are forced to confront their emotional limits. Love that challenges their pride, friendships that test loyalty, situations that require emotional patience rather than action. And here lies the shadow. Sometimes Aries pushes people away, not because they don't care, but because they care too much. They fear being seen at their most fragile. From decades of studying Aries energy, I've learned this. The most evolved Aries is not the loudest or the strongest. It is the one who allows themselves to be seen without feeling threatened. True courage for Aries is not confrontation. It is emotional honesty. Life lesson: invulnerability is an illusion. Strength grows when you allow yourself to feel without running from it. If you are an Aries, think about this carefully. How often have you said, "I'm fine," when you were anything but? Comment if this resonates with you. Because the heart is only part of the story. The next secret reveals something even more dangerous. It explains why Aries can go from charming to intimidating in a matter of seconds, and why their competitive nature is not always about winning. Now we move into the battlefield. Secret number 6. They don't just compete to win. They compete to exist. Aries doesn't enter a room quietly, even when they try to. There is something about their presence, alert, charged, slightly electric. They notice everything: who is leading, who is speaking, who is being admired. And something inside them switches on. It's subtle at first, a tightening of focus, a sharpening of tone, a need to prove. I once observed an Aries friend during a casual group discussion. What started as a friendly debate quickly escalated into a full intellectual duel. The subject didn't even matter anymore. What mattered was being right. Afterward, I asked them why they cared so much. They answered honestly, "I don't like being overlooked." This is the 6th dark secret of Aries in 2026. Their competitiveness is not always about superiority. It is about visibility. Psychologically, Aries thrives on impact. They want to feel significant. They want to feel undeniable. Being average feels suffocating. They don't just want to participate. They want to stand out. In 2026, Aries will be placed in environments where comparison becomes unavoidable. Career competition, social positioning, even relationship dynamics. And when they sense someone challenging their position, something primal activates. It is not jealousy. It is territorial identity. Here is the shadow. Sometimes Aries fights battles that were never wars. They turn conversations into contests, partnerships into scoreboards, moments into measurements. And this can exhaust both them and everyone around them. But beneath this drive lies something more vulnerable. Aries fears being irrelevant. They would rather clash than disappear. From years of observing this pattern, I've seen 2 types of Aries. The reactive one competes loudly. The evolved one competes quietly with themselves. The difference changes everything. Life lesson: competition can sharpen you, but insecurity disguised as competition can isolate you. In 2026, Aries must ask themselves, are you trying to win or are you trying to be seen? Comment if this resonates with you, because competition is only one layer of power. The next secret is far more unsettling. It reveals why Aries can cut people off with almost surgical precision, and why once that door closes, it rarely reopens. Now we approach the irreversible side of the fire. Secret number 7. Once they detach, there is no return. Most people think Aries is impulsive in love, that they leave suddenly, that they cut people off dramatically, that they burn bridges without thinking. But here is what most people never see. By the time Aries leaves, they have already left internally. I once spoke to an Aries man who ended a 5-year relationship with what looked like shocking calmness. No screaming, no public breakdown, no visible chaos. His partner said it felt like he switched off overnight. But when we talked, he admitted something chillingly honest. I stopped fighting for it months ago. This is the 7th dark secret of Aries in 2026. When Aries detaches, it is rarely sudden. It is final. Aries may react quickly in arguments. They may explode and forgive within minutes. But emotional detachment is different. Detachment is silent. It builds slowly, layer by layer, each time they feel unheard, disrespected, or undervalued. And when it reaches a certain threshold, something inside them closes, not dramatically, decisively. Psychologically, Aries does not tolerate prolonged emotional uncertainty. If they sense repeated instability, their survival instinct activates again, the same instinct that drives their impulse and their anger. But instead of fire, this time it becomes ice. In 2026, many Aries will face relationships or partnerships that test their patience. And this year, their tolerance for half effort will be lower than usual. The shadow lies here. Aries does not warn endlessly. They don't beg repeatedly. They don't chase validation forever. They endure quietly until they don't. And once that internal line is crossed, there is rarely a second chance. Because to reopen that door would mean admitting they tolerated something beneath their standards. And Aries protects their self-respect fiercely. From decades of observing Aries patterns, I've learned something consistent. Their anger is loud, their detachment is lethal. People fear their temper. They should pay attention to their silence. Life lesson: leaving is easy. Staying and communicating before detachment sets in, that is harder. In 2026, Aries must ask themselves, are you walking away because it is necessary or because it is safer than being vulnerable again? Comment if this resonates with you, because detachment is not the final layer. There is one more secret, and this one is the hardest for Aries to admit. It explains why they push so hard, move so fast, defend so fiercely, compete so intensely, and why underneath all of it, there is something they rarely confess even to themselves. Now we reach the final shadow. Secret number 8. Their greatest fear is not failure, it is not being enough. Aries fears many things. They fear stagnation. They fear control. They fear betrayal. But none of those are the deepest layer. The final dark secret of Aries in 2026 is this. Beneath the confidence, beneath the fire, beneath the independence, there is a quiet fear of not being enough. Not strong enough, not respected enough, not valued enough, not unforgettable enough. This fear is subtle. It does not look like insecurity. It looks like ambition. It looks like drive. It looks like relentless motion. I once asked an Aries client why they worked so hard, harder than anyone in their field, even after achieving visible success. They paused for a moment and said, if I slow down, someone else becomes more important. That sentence reveals everything. Aries does not chase greatness only for glory. They chase it to avoid invisibility. Psychologically, Aries builds identity through action. They measure worth through impact. If they are not progressing, not winning, not leading, something inside them feels unsettled. In 2026, this fear may surface more strongly than usual, because this year will test Aries not through competition, but through stillness. Moments where effort does not immediately produce validation. Situations where they must trust their value without applause. And that is uncomfortable territory. Here lies the shadow. Sometimes Aries pushes people away, not because they are too independent, but because they fear being seen as insufficient. They would rather be intimidating than underestimated, rather dominant than doubted, rather intense than ignored. But beneath that armor is something profoundly human, a desire to matter. From decades of studying Aries energy, I've learned this truth. Aries does not fear falling, they fear fading. And that distinction explains nearly everything. Their impulse, their anger, their competitiveness, their detachment, all of it protects one core need: to feel significant. Life lesson: you do not have to prove your worth through constant motion. You are not valuable only when you are winning. In 2026, the greatest growth for Aries will not come from conquering the world. It will come from realizing they were already enough even in stillness. If you are an Aries, ask yourself honestly, how much of your fire is fueled by passion and how much is fueled by fear? Comment if this resonates with you, because understanding this changes how you use your power. Conclusion: the fire was never the problem. After everything we've uncovered, one thing becomes clear. The fire was never the problem. The impulse, the anger, the independence, the competitiveness, the detachment. None of these are flaws by themselves. They are survival strategies. Aries was not designed to move quietly through life. They were designed to initiate, to confront, to ignite. But in 2026, the lesson is not about burning brighter. It is about burning wiser. The world will challenge Aries in ways that test more than courage. It will test patience. It will test restraint. It will test whether strength can exist without aggression. And here is the truth most people miss. Aries is not reckless. Aries is responsive. They respond to disrespect. They respond to injustice. They respond to emotional threat. And sometimes they respond so fast, they don't give themselves space to feel first. This year invites a shift, not away from fire, but toward awareness. Because the most powerful version of Aries is not the loudest one in the room. It is the one who understands their own shadows. The one who knows when to act and when to pause, when to fight and when to soften, when to walk away and when to stay present. The 8 dark secrets were never meant to expose weakness. They were meant to reveal depth. Aries does not fear intensity, but growth requires something deeper than intensity. It requires self-honesty, and that is the real transformation of 2026. If you are an Aries, remember this: your fire is not dangerous. Unconscious fire is. You do not need to prove your worth through constant movement. You do not need to defend your value at every challenge. You do not need to win every battle to remain significant. Sometimes the greatest power is control over your own flame. And if you love an Aries, understand this: behind the boldness is loyalty. Behind the temper is sensitivity. Behind the independence is a fear of being diminished. See the fire clearly and you will never misinterpret it again. So now I want to ask you something. Which of these secrets felt the most uncomfortable? Which one felt too accurate? Comment below and tell me which shadow you recognized in yourself or in the Aries you know. Because self-awareness is where real strength begins. And if this journey gave you clarity, stay connected. There is more beneath the surface of every sign, and understanding it changes everything. Until next time, protect your fire, but don't let it burn you. If this video made you see Aries differently, don't stop here. There are layers to every sign that most people never explore, and the more you understand them, the more you understand yourself. So if you're ready to go deeper into the psychology, the shadows, the hidden strengths, and the transformations of 2026, make sure you're subscribed. Because the next insight might be the one that changes how you see everything. Stay connected, stay aware, and most importantly, stay conscious of your fire. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next revelation.